landscape architect. She empowers people with tools and techniques that activate, energize, and catalyze healing energies that reduce the energy-depleting stress, while assisting them to take charge of their inner and outer worlds and discover their own unique potential. Her lifelong search for answers led her to explore a variety of alternative healing techniques that made a huge difference in her life. And so she became a multifaceted practitioner, enabling her to more fully be able to share that hope with others. You welcome with me, Becki. Koon.
Okay, am I on? Okay, great. It's an honor to be here with all of you today. So I would like to take just a moment. I'm so excited about this month being the spiritual heart, connected to heart and heart math. So let's just take a minute together and do some breathing. So I want you to focus your attention in the area of the heart. And I want you to just imagine that your heart is breathing in and out. And if it helps to put your hand on your chest, that's fine. But just visualize that the heart is breathing in and out, a little slower and a little deeper than usual. In and out. And now I want you to bring in the feeling of compassion, the feeling of care, the feeling of appreciation and gratitude. Bring that feeling into that heart space. Breathe that energy in. And out. So this is a place we're going to reside, where we reside today. It's in that heart space. It's that connection to our divine self. That moment. So we all just took a journey in that few minutes to ourself, to that connection to ourself. And so thank you, because we all exist in this field. And we've all now just connected to our source, and yet we're sharing that. So it's really beautiful. We live in amazing times right now. Amazing times. You know, we have technology that can, we can talk instantly to somebody around the world. We can talk to, massive amounts of people instantaneously. Phone, internet, Wi-Fi. I mean, it's amazing what we have happening in our world today. And yet, so many people are disconnected. So many people feel disillusioned. So many people feel discouraged, despair. And we also have a world that's very full of consumerism, right? We have material goods at our disposal. We're conditioned all the time with, if you buy this jacket, you will look amazing. Or if I drink this beverage, it's gonna, my life is gonna last 10 years longer or something. We're continually inundated with outside things. We're told that if we do these things outside of ourselves, that it's going to be better, that it's going to work, that we're going to feel better. And yet, the journey to self, it's an inside job. It's an inside job. We can use material goods. It's part of how we express ourselves. I like this jacket, it's part of my expression of my personality. We have fun in the world. We can go on vacations, we travel, we do all those things. So it's not that it's a bad thing to have material items. But if you're seeking to find something within yourself through those means, then you're going to have a harder time. Because the journey to self is in that space of heart-centeredness, of that divine source that we all are. I mean, if you're breathing, you're connected to divinity. And it doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter what words you've used. It doesn't matter how you identify with that divinity. But if you're breathing air, you're part of that process. We can't be separate from it. And as alone as we all feel sometimes in the world of form, in this 3D reality, we're not. We're never alone. We're never alone. In fact, every fiber of my being knows that we're never alone. We have relationships. You know, we have a lot of outside relationships. Parents, family, kids, boss, co-workers, friends, what we're doing in group here together. You know, we have a lot of relationships. But there are times when, even with all the relationships that we have, we can feel completely alone. Have any of you ever had the thought, maybe some of you have, gosh, if anybody really truly knew me, then they would understand. Has anybody felt that way?
Yeah.
I see a few heads shaking. Yeah. What about the thought, I just feel so alone. Nobody understands me. Okay. Me too. I've been there. And yet the fact is that in the physical world, it can seem like we're really alone. But we're not. And how can I stand up here and tell you that with confidence? Like, we are not alone. Well, I would like to share a little bit about my personal journey. Because that's part of how I can stand up here and say that. Let me just check my notes here real quick to see. Oh my gosh. So my journey started 35 years ago when I had my son. Well, actually, my journey started way back before that. I think we were all on a journey from the day we're born, right? But my interesting journey to finding myself started with the birth of my son. Very unique child, really active, really challenging, really colicky, bright light, but challenged every system that he came in contact with. And challenged people and challenged his, his environment, his world. I'll share one story with you that really stands out to me. It was what my life was like. He was 8 at the time, and I was living in a 2-story house in Sun Valley, Idaho at the time, and this was probably 2 o'clock in the morning. I was dead asleep, totally asleep, and I hear him starting to yell and scream, "Mom, wake up, wake up." And so I'm pulling myself out of this groggy sleep, and he's running down the stairs and coming up to my bedside, and he's shaking me. He's like, Mom, we got to get out, there's fire. The fire alarm's going off. Well, I hadn't heard anything. I'm still kind of sound asleep and kind of pulling myself out of it. And so as I wake up, as I come out of it and wake up, I'm hearing a slight chirp of a low battery on the downstairs fire alarm. And he's just terrified. He's panicked. We got to get out of the house, Mom. Well, that was after 2 weeks of him not sleeping. We had fire education at school, fire education awareness at school. So he didn't sleep for 2 weeks because he stayed awake to listen for the fire and the crackle and the flame so that we could get out safe. And that was just one story. Life from the time he was 6 to the time he was 10 was very intense. That started down the road of doctors, counselors, psychologists, medication. At the time, I was working with specialists who, were talking in the field, and we were all doing what we thought was best to support him and help him. Because at 6 years old, he didn't want to be on the planet anymore. I couldn't understand that, because I was so in love with this child. But he just struggled with being here. His IQ was way up. He had high IQ. But really didn't want to be here. Life was pretty tough for him. And so, from first grade till when he was 10 and 5th, we took a journey down this road of, counseling and support and individual education plans at school and meeting with all of these different specialists and medications. Because at the time, that's what we felt like. He had lots of labels. They labeled him many things. So the medication would work for a while. There would be a side effect. It would stop working. It was just this constant up and down, up and down, up and down. And the whole time, I'm just seeking all kinds of outside support. Anybody that I could find to support him. And I had a really low moment when he was 10. His impulsivity got really severe. And it got to where it was almost dangerous for him. Like one instance, he ended up just riding his bike right out in front of the car. He could have seen the car, but he just impulsively just rode out and got hit. And also, we went to dinner one night, and he went to take food into his mouth, and he was shaken so bad that he couldn't get the fork into his mouth. So it was recommended that I take him to Children's Primary Hospital in Salt Lake City. And he spent just shy of a month there. The hardest thing I have ever done in my life as a parent was taking my 10-year-old and leaving him there. And as he's screaming and crying for me, and I have to walk out to locked doors because he's on the suicide watch. And then I didn't get to speak to him for a week because it was a really strict behavior modification that they were doing. And when I did get to speak to him, he said, "Mom, I don't belong here. Mom, I don't belong here. Please come get me." And when I told him that I couldn't, he hung up. And I didn't get to speak to him for a while. And so that started this period of time where I was at a real low as a parent because I had outsourced and looked for all the support I could find, and it still wasn't working. And when I picked him up after a month, they basically said, "We don't think he's going to function very well." And sent him home with more medication. And this was at the end of October. So by the time January rolled around, I was losing him. He was a fog. When I would look at my child, I would see this fog. He wasn't even present. And he just didn't want to be here anymore. It was just too much for him. So I was desperate, and I didn't know what to do. I felt like I had done everything. I knew what to do. And then God, my intervention happened. And I ended up meeting a woman who communicated with angels. I'd never met this woman before. Somebody had just said, "I know this lady you need to go talk to." And so I ended up on her doorstep. I said, she opened the door. I'm like, "You don't know me," and I fell into her arms. And I broke down, and I just cried and cried and cried. While this woman held me with unconditional love, I felt it from her. I felt this love pouring into my weakened body, right? And so that afternoon, she proceeded to tell me and that they told me to trust my intuition, to trust my connection to Source, that divine wisdom that comes through, to trust that. I knew what I needed to do for my son. The other cool part was she introduced me to his angels. And I got to connect with his angels, which was great because I'm like, okay, he's not alone either, thank God. Because I didn't know what to do at times. So that was my low point and my high point. You know, there are moments in our lives that are defining moments for us. That was a defining moment. I found the strength to go back to the doctors and say, okay, we're done experimenting. It's, you know, it just doesn't seem to be working for him. That system doesn't work for him. I'm doing it different. And that sent me on a journey of seeking alternative healing. Alternative anything. I mean, at that point, I was ready to look at anything that came down the pipe to support him. And so I worked with a shaman out of Polson, Montana. I worked with a psychic healer in New York City. I worked with another healer in Boise, Idaho. I mean, I was seeking all this support. I took him to a naturopathic doctor. I took him to a cranial sacral therapist. I took him to a hypnotherapist. All of those alternative activities became part of his healing. And the one thing that I did nutritionally, so nutrition played a huge part in his healing, was I started working with blue-green algae, just a whole food source. So have you guys ever seen the movie Awakening? Okay, that's what started taking place. It was like watching this young soul who was so discouraged with life begin to wake up. And I saw light in my son's eyes that I hadn't seen for years. You know, when he was really young, he had this vibrancy for life and this mischievousness and this light in him. But that had gone. It had kind of disappeared. And so I started seeing this awakening happening in him. And in that process of awareness, he started opening up and sharing with me things that I really hadn't anticipated. He started talking about seeing auras around people. He started talking about having intuitions about things. He started talking about seeing other beings and having awareness of what people were thinking. So, of course, this opened my world to a whole different paradigm. And I was watching the healing taking place in him. The interesting part of the journey, though, is that all of these things that I was doing to support him, okay, that was my catalyst. But really, it was my journey as well. It was my journey to find myself. Because what I realized, much like my son, I'm empathic. I'm very sensitive to energy. I feel things. I just didn't have the awareness about it. I didn't recognize that was part of it. But I began to understand that the process I was going through with him was my journey as well. And when I remembered to connect to Source, and when I remembered the angels were with me, my guidance was with me, that divine light, then it made it so much easier. I'm not going to tell you it was a piece of cake. You know, I mean, okay, so my son's 35 now. I won't tell you that it's been an easy journey for him. That's not the reality. But the reality is he's here. He stayed on the planet. He didn't check out. Because I'll tell you, he thought about it every day. One of the counselors asked him one time, and he said, yeah, I think about it every day. So, the thing is, we all have a journey. You know, this is my journey. My journey was to be a mom and to explore what it was like to have a unique child. You know, when you're a parent of a special needs person, you kind of get hypersensitive. You get hyper aware of their life. You get you get absorbed into the life sometimes you lose yourself in that. And so, always, coming back to, okay, so what is it that I have to share? What is it for me that I have this journey? And I started sharing it with parents. I ended up on a national network, and I worked with parents who had kids who were labeled autistic, Asperger's, all the different labels that they have out there. And what ended up happening was we ended up discovering that so many of these kids had talents and gifts way beyond what was expected. Like, some of these kids are telepathic. I mean, you guys all know Jessica, right? Of Sequoia? I've known Jessica since before Sequoia was born. So Jessica told me it was okay to share this with you guys because she's not here today. But Sequoia's telepathic with her all the time. And Jessica will be thinking something, and then Sequoia will verbalize. And it's stuff out of the blue. Jessica's like, she'll be thinking that she needs to go to the grocery store, and then Sequoia will say, I want bananas. So that happens all the time. These kids, people who are labeled, we all have these amazing gifts. There's something that we have to share with the world, our light. There's so much light that these beings carry, our special needs, and anybody who has a challenge, we have so much to share with each other, so much to share with others in our life. And so when you can stand up here, when you can stand up and be vulnerable, when you can share your story, it's amazing how much you can touch others, how much you can give hope to others, right? I want to share a story. So I wrote this book years ago. It's like a long time ago, but it was about my son's journey into healing. And he started writing when he was 12. And one of the things that he did was, his writing was a way to help him process what was going on with him, his feelings. So here's a child who didn't want to live, and when he's 12, he ends up writing this poem. He's sitting out in nature. Let me preface it. He's out in nature, up the East Fork in the middle of the woods, okay? And he's sitting there. So this is what he writes. Water rushes as the white snow falls. So much life upon this place. A feeling of joy throughout my body. My mind kicks in gear. A sweet sting on my fingertips. Life. A tree blows snow on me, telling me hello. The mountains are tickled with a blue aura. Life. Have I been here before? The ground is moist. A single branch sticks from the bottom of the tree. Life. Could this be a place for humanity? Something tugs on my paper, trying to tell me something. Maybe life. A single tree sticks out from all the others, like the ugly duckling, yet it's beautiful. The rock which gives humanity a break is covered in white life. So, for a parent, of course, that was wonderful for me to see what can happen when the human spirit, when we find that light within us, when we find that strength, when we find that connection to why we're here. There's a couple of quotes that I wanted to share before I finish today. And this quote was really, it just hit me. So the heart is the perfection of the whole organism. Therefore, the principles of the power of perception and the soul's ability to nourish itself must lie in the heart. Okay? That was Aristotle who said that. Okay? They figure it was right around 384 to 322 BC. So, that sounds like intuition. That sounds like connecting to that divine source, right? That's how we measure where we're at. Life today, my son's 35, and I have a beautiful relationship with him. And I'm getting to know him as an adult. He's functioning fine in society. Has he got his challenges? Yes. But, he's doing fine. I get to work with him every now and again. I do Reiki on him, and I do all these different techniques. Well, I get to do on him now too. And why I was drawn to HeartMath. HeartMath is such an amazing organization and technique. So I wanted to share with you a quote from Doc Children before I go. It says, intelligence and intuition are heightened when we learn to listen more deeply to our own heart. It's through learning how to decipher the messages we receive from our hearts that we gain the keen perception we need to effectively manage our emotions in the midst of life's situations and challenges. We all have challenges, everybody. And yet we all have a story. We all have a story that can impact somebody else and give somebody else hope and give somebody else connection. And don't forget to breathe. Just breathe. And journey into that heart center that you are, that divine connection that you are. So, good.